What's up, everybody? This is Urzio99, and today we're doing something a little different. As you can see, I've got the original Tom Clancy's The Division game loaded up on my PC, and it runs very nicely on this high-end PC. What we're going to do today is we're going to take a look at what Ubisoft did well in the first Division that didn't translate over too well in the Division 2, and vice versa. So we're going to have footage from both games. So, if you're going to compare a game and its sequel, you should probably start with the original game. So let's get started. Now, there was a lot of hype in E3 about this game for a long time, and it's one of the first of the new era of games that came out pretty poorly compared to how it was, what the visuals and stuff at
Even
E3
before we
was
pulled out of the dark zone, the brass airdropped in some shade tech stations to coordinate local ops. Thing is, those tactical sites are still in there, sitting on all sorts of intel. We want it back, and so does every rogue agent in the city. We need you to get a team together and download whatever you can from those stations before someone else does.
Now entering a safe area.
Okay, since we're in, since we're in the base of operations, we'll go ahead and let's shut everybody up. Okay. Alright, let's first off start in the base of, with the inventory and the character, and then we'll go into the base of operations. Okay. First thing we notice, of course, same basic premise as the original, as the second division. 2 primaries, a secondary, 6 sets. One thing that they did improve was weapon modding, because in the division, weapon mods were individual items with random chances, random statistics. Whereas in the division, once you've earned the blueprint and crafted the blueprint for the mod, its values are always consistent. And it doesn't take up space in your inventory. So that's one thing they definitely got right. One thing I have noticed from going back to the division compared to the second one is just the sheer amount of insanity as far as stability and ability to control your firearms. In the Division 2, you can actually max stability using mods on just about any weapon in the game that's full auto. Here, I mean, even with stability, accuracy, it's still pretty rough. As you can see, you can't get anywhere near this number. So that's one thing that they haven't. That's 2 things they've improved, mainly weapon control and the modding system for weapons. Another thing they've improved, the modding system for armor. before you had these stamina. For example, here they have stamina mods. As you can see, they go for firepower, firearm, stamina, electronics as their key attributes. Whereas in the Division, for talents on, say, regular high-end gear, you can get either blue attributes for, toughness, armor, red attributes for offense, and yellow attributes for skill-related abilities. And they include skill power, but in the Division 2, skill power is essentially useless. In the Division, skill power matters. I'll give you an example. As you can see, it's modified by my skill power. It's still 60 meters, it's still 20 seconds long, but I get 11% critical hit chance. That's base. You can see tac scanner, critical hit goes up to 10, critical hit damage goes up to 13.5, and the cooldown goes down. This does not happen in the Division 2. In the Division 2, all you get is, from skill power, is access to mods for individual skills that have to be slotted. And they have their own little separate 100-item inventory, along with the armor mods. Skill power has absolutely no effect on the skill in and of itself, which is retarded. You shouldn't be running skill power just at the chance to get a mod. There should be a tangible benefit for running skill power, because every yellow attribute on an item is space that could be taken up by a red or a blue attribute. So that's one area that they've kind of flubbed the system. I mean, it was so bad at the initial launch, no one could use any skill mods, because picking up skill power as a tertiary item, which it is for like 90%, 99% of builds, unless you want to be a healer, is, well, quite frankly, nothing. It doesn't have any effect, so no one really picked it up to unlock the mods. So that's something you should always be wary of. I mean, other than that, the skills themselves are fairly decent. The shield, you got the sticky bomb, turrets, seeker mine, pulse, and the heal. They did make the heal into the chem launcher, which kind of half-ass combines the sticky bomb and the heal, depending on what skill variant you choose. The drone is interesting. The Firefly, not so much. Things like mobile cover, it's like, yeah, not really jumping out at you. Smart cover, I mean, it's nice, but it's alright for some purposes, I guess. The shield, especially with the defense set, is very, very nice. But I'm also using a set that empowers shields. And that's another thing that they kind of missed out on. The armor in the second division is very talent centric. You have talents that increase your offensive capabilities, like Berserk, which says that you'll get increased damage for every so percentage of armor you're missing. You have defensive stats like patience, which as long as you hide and cover, you'll gradually regenerate armor. It's 1% a second after 5 seconds in cover, or 5% a second after 5 seconds in cover. And they have talents like Unstoppable Force, which gives you a damage bonus based on your armor. Safeguard, when you kill an enemy, your healing skills are more effective for a certain amount of time. And each of these requires a balance of different attributes on your armor to activate. Unfortunately, they've decided to go ham with their rebalancing of these things, and some of the most useful items are also the most difficult to get. And then add in the fact that the sets that they've added don't have any talents on them, and they don't have meaningful set bonuses. Yeah, for example, this set, the Reclaimer set, it's a healing set. It revolves around the support station. So it's a healing and support type of set, which is not a big deal. Increased duration, increased range. So you and your boys are in a fight, and in like a hard 5-man, you put this puppy down behind you or beside you. Big old aura to help your teammates as long as they stay within it. And then you can equip the regular heal and hit them with that if they get too far away. But this one here, this Reclaimer, it essentially activates all of the mods for the support station at the same time. It revives people. It provides immunity to status effects, which is a big deal in both division games, because the minute you get hit with a status effect, 90% of the time it pulls you out of cover, and then you get chewed up. And then the ammo cache, which gradually refills ammunition. Something like this on Operation Dark Hours, there's a few places where this would be really, really, really helpful. Things like this, and then having performance mods that say increase your support station's radius. Those would be very useful. But so that's one area that they've kind of goofed up on. The only one I've seen on the new sets that's viable is Aces and Eights, which is the sharpshooter set. We have a couple of guys who have it in our clan, and even it's bugged out. Like, it doesn't work properly in the raid. We don't get the, people aren't getting the procs. So they've got some work to do there too. But that's set pieces. Let's see. Here's another interesting one. Grenades. Of course, in the original Division, if you could find the specialty grenades in the world, you could hang on to them and use them as the situation dictated. You know, got flashbangs, EMPs, incendiaries, shock, tear gas, along with regular old frags. Now they've gone to specializations, which require, you have to unlock the different grenade types, and you only get one special grenade type depending on what your specialization is. So that's kind of weak because it denies agents versatility. The only thing they did trade off is they allow you to carry more. Like you can carry, I think, 7 grenades of regular and your variety. But still, it's another way to deny specifics. They also changed ammunition. Instead of being able to simply activate incendiary ammo or explosive ammo, they have made it a limited number of item pickups in the world. You go to a crate, you open it up, you get 30 incendiary rounds. Now it's both good and bad. It's good because you're not limited by a time. If you activate, one of these consumables and then you get pinned down, the clock's still ticking. You only have 30 seconds to unload as much ammunition as you possibly can. If you want to maximize the effect of this particular item. Now these other items, like here, the energy bars, canned food, sodas, and water, they got rid of those entirely. Because apparently agents in Washington, D.C. magically don't need to eat or drink anything, ever. Not even a little pick-me-up. So it's kind of messed up. One thing they did well was the shared currency. As you can see here, I've got 70,942,000 credits. So that's division money. That gives you an idea how much crap I sold back in the day. But it's a shared amount. I have a level 5, I have like a level 10 character that I'm running through the game again running through the story. And he's set for life because anytime I level up I can just visit all the vendors I've unlocked and just hit them up for some new weapons and armor. See what they got. Anytime I go up, it's just, yeah. And let's see, what else? What else? Of course, they have the appearance. They don't have the. When I left the game, they hadn't instituted loot boxes, but apparently they've instituted some kind of cosmetic loot box thing in this game. Which is, you know, it doesn't give you an advantage, so I'm not too mad about it. It's a way to continue paying for the servers at least. Okay, and that that should cover. Actually, no, it doesn't. You have these talents that were available. You could choose different talents depending on your play style to augment it. It's nice. But it's not something you really find in the Division 2. The perks, of course, you get these for completing the base of operations. As you upgrade it, you get these perks unlocked. You kind of get these with the ones that you can purchase for Shade Tech. But talents like these apparently have gone completely out the window, which is kind of disappointing. All right. Since we're in the base of operations, we'll go ahead and talk about the base of operations. Still have this slow walk zone. And you have them in Division 2 as well. I hate slow walk zones. They are a cancer upon the game. This is, that is way too long. Okay. Now, of course, you got the base. You go in here. As you do missions, you get supplies that allow you to unlock the various services, which unlock skill platforms, skill mods, as well as perks. And I'm getting tutorials because I haven't been around here in a while. DZ vendor. Now this was cool. The cool thing about it was some of these items actually gave you salvage. Like this weapons parts crate here. Once a day you open it up, weapons crate. You go over here, there's a appearance vendor. You can buy appearance items with your Mountain of Division credits. You could end up coming down here, talk to the advanced weapon vendor, and he'll have some oddball stuff, but every now and then he gets a very nice item. Accuracy. So, these are things you look for, but as you spend and as you improve the base, you get more and more stuff. Special ammo. Oh look, if I wasn't full on special ammo, I could have got some special ammo there. Medical wings, the same thing. And you can feel the base come to life, because originally this place is like a trashed, mess. There's no one around. And as you improve it, life things start coming alive. And the same way here upstairs with the tech wing. free tools, but everything is, vibrant and actually does something. You can recalibrate your weaponry. Now, because of the nature of the exotics in the division, you actually get a you can't actually return like re-roll them because they're not as unique in the second division as they are in the first one. But being able to recalibrate, it's nice-ish to have, but the only problem is, of course, with this one it was randomly generated, whereas in the second game you actually pull stats from one item to another, so you know ultimately what you're getting, which is nice, but you can only do that to one aspect of an item. Like, you can only recalibrate one attribute, whether it be a stat line or a talent, which is kind of weak, especially as talent dependent as the armor in Division 2 is. You're probably going to want to be able to change a talent and a stat line, or two stat lines, because it's very, very difficult, especially with multiple stat lines, to get truly good armor. It's a lot of, and especially with the brand sets that are in the Division 2, where, oh, you're wearing, two pieces of, Badger Tough, so you get 15 armor on kill. With those kind of sets, it also makes it more viable to recalibrate two lines on a item. And let's see. Okay, we'll cover the map. Of course, this map is, old by modern PC standards. The DC map is much nicer as far as layout. But one thing I have noticed in the second division, the individual safe houses don't actually have vendors. Your only vendors in the Division 2 are the vendor at the White House, the vendor at the campus and the theater settlements, and then Cassie Mendoza, the roving arms trader. So, unfortunately, it leaves a lot of variety. And in a loop-based game, where all of these vendors, including these DZ vendor checkpoints, have vendors, they of course use DZ funds, but the vendors in the DZs and at the checkpoints and the safe houses all utilize random chance to generate items. So you have one down here in Camp Hudson, you got one at the base, and you've got one at all these safe houses, so you could go around and shop every time the vendors reset and see if they drop, see if there was something available as a god roll. And there were so many more chances, especially if you were a DZ player and had DZ currency, because you could just go hit up one of these checkpoints or go to the DZ vendor there in the base. up this fella. But you can see he takes the DZ credits. And they would also sell blueprints. If you could get to, if you could get to the DZ, and rack up, kills on enemies there in the dark zone, you could get, very impressive items from the DZ without a problem. And a lot of blueprints were also sold in the dark zone. So if you wanted to be a completionist from a point of view of a crafting completionist, you would want those blueprints. So it was, you had to take the risk of, grinding up some DZ credits and going in there. See, this is the kind of stuff the sets would allow you to do in the Division 2. Normally you can't use an SMG with the riot shield. But I can, because I've got a 4-piece of the set. So yeah, there's a few areas where the 2nd Division, they have really missed the mark. There are some places they've done it well, but there are some places that they have just flat out screwed up. Now the other common area here, of course, they have the daily missions, which that's not a surprise, that came back from the Division 2. See, they've got, instead of projects, they have these assignments. I like how it's still showing us. I guess this is because I've done this one. I haven't done any of these other ones. You can see all the side missions I did. Then of course there's the stuff in the North Piers, which I haven't done because I haven't played really this game since just after Underground came out. I never played Survival, Resistance, or Last Stand. But one thing I will say that they've replaced the largely ineffectual JTF with largely ineffectual civilian patrols, who always manage to get themselves attacked by heavy gunners. So as far as like the base building, that was done better in the 1st Division. I liked the settlement upgrade system. However, the only really real thing you got out of it for completing the missions was recruiting personnel. So it would unlock like projects to complete for XP and items and services at the base, which is not quite the same thing. Like, you can't go into a settlement and get crafting components. you have to do the daily projects and or the weekly projects to get crafting components. So they've kind of screwed the pooch on that one. Another thing they've kind of gimped out on is the stash. The stash needs to be massive. Yeah, right now it's at 150 items. It should be closer to 300. This is a looter shooter. You're going to need space for loot, especially if you want to have, meaningful sets. Then you're going to need people space to keep those sets when they're not in use. As far as the missions themselves, that hasn't really changed much. It's still, contained area, narrative driven, pretty linear. That hasn't changed at all. But I think that's now one thing they did do with the Division 2's Dark Zone is they did make two of them where they're balanced. And of course the min-maxers aren't gonna go into that dark zone because, well, they're min-maxers. The last thing they want is a fair fight. So I'll take a sec here and switch over to the Division 2 and we'll talk about where we go from here. What the Division 2 did well that Division 1 didn't have, and where they can improve. Alright, and we're back in the Division 2. Of course things look nicer. Imagine what a few years of graphics technology can do, huh? Alright. As you can see, this guy is a gunner. This is actually a fully upgraded gunner. And that's going to be important later because one of my biggest gripes with the Division 2 right now is that signature weapon, the minigun. Apparently it's supposed to be a 7.62 minigun.
Entering safe area.
But with the amount of damage it does, it might as well be shooting peas. I'll give you a concrete example here. Now the patch that just came out today, they actually nerfed the minigun by reducing its ammo pickup from 75 rounds to 50. Which is kind of BS considering that the crossbow and the grenade launcher both get 2 rounds per pickup. As you can see, fully upgraded and increased signature weapon damage. This probably needs to double. Hell, the damage of the weapon overall probably needs to double. Because you can see 19.8K, that's less than my assault rifle, and it is far more accurate. Like, they don't even tell you how accurate the or stable the minigun is. I can give you a hint. It's not either of those things. Not even close. Yeah, with this thing, I can control it, and it works like a laser beam. spews lead all over the place. You'd be lucky if, 1 out of every 10 rounds hits your target if you're at any kind of distance. And the talents, it's supposed to have, as you can see, up to 50% max armor. Each bullet hit restores 1% armor. The problem is practically none of your bullets hit. You're standing up in a cover-based shooter, and you're getting mowed down. Like I brought this thing out earlier today on District Union Challenge, and was trying to, lay into somebody, and they killed me. Because they were not behind cover. They were in the open. I pull out my minigun, which is fully loaded. I put 50 rounds into the guy, at the guy. Maybe 10 of them hit and take off a little bit of his armor, and I'm down. So the defensive stats on this need to rework. This could probably stay up to 50. This could probably stay at 50. This needs to go up to like 5. Because you're hitting so few bullets unless you're right on top of them. That it isn't, and even that may not matter, because by that point you're so close they can't miss. And they just burn down your armor. And I've done this with this current build. This is a high damage AR build. I also have a defensive survivability build with Patience and Unbreakable. You can see I'm running Patience and then Unstoppable Force for damage. Plus this chest has a 16% weapon damage bonus. And I've got a 7% weapon damage bonus on this backpack. So yeah. Here we go. All weapon bonus, 30%. Got a 30% weapon damage bonus, and still can't get a decent DPS out of this gun. So that needs to go. That needs to change drastically. The specialization itself, for the most part, it's okay. These foam grenades suck. Duration needs to be increased. Radius needs to be massively increased. Crowd control grenades are supposed to have bigger radius than offensive grenades. The trade-off being that they only crowd control. They don't do damage. Hell, even the incendiary grenade technically does damage because it lights people on fire. Foam grenades don't do anything. So, that's one thing to look at. The other thing is skill power and skill mods. I mentioned it in the first half of the video. Your skill power literally does nothing but unlock these mod slots. And that, to be perfectly frank, is dumb. For example, we can see 2710 skill power. Well, I'll go ahead and unslot. Didn't increase. You see, it only affected the cooldown because it disabled this other mod. I just added 1,000. I literally almost doubled my skill power. Nothing changed. See, it only goes down when you equip the mod. That needs to go. It's nice that they want to have these mod slots and you can do a few things that may help, but you need to really, really, really look at, like for example, this chem launcher. I'm not running the skill power build I was running, so that mod no longer works. So now I've got 2300 skill power, nothing changes. 14, 23, 14, 23. Once again, a substantial addition to my skill power, no effect on the skill attributes. That is retarded. And as I mentioned, you can see that the items have attributes, and then you have the set pieces. So it becomes even more of a balancing act. It's like, okay, I need to find, a Fenris chest with these talents, with this stat layout. Because when you recalibrate items, I'll head over to the recalibration station just for giggles. When you recalibrate in the Division 2,
Good to see you. You need to craft something?
as you can see, you can only change, and I can only change this one on this because it's been recalibrated, but I can only recalibrate to other red attributes that I find. I can't if I want to respec an item, see, I can only take certain first line talents. See, certain talents are the only ones they'll allow me to take. I can respec the free talent and pick up that self-adjusting, or I can replace the tech support with on the ropes from one of these items. If I want to take one of the other items, if I want to take an attribute, I can only take a similar attribute to replace it.
Nice.
That is a glorious lack of versatility and just makes the grind that much harder for very foolish reasons. Oh, you could make a replacement if you have the particular thing in question, the blueprint for that particular brand, but oh wait, your max score can only be 450 to 490. You can't craft item level 500 gear except for the craftable sets. And the craftable sets don't really, they don't really have they don't have any talents at all whatsoever, and you're hoping, you're trying to capitalize on the set bonuses. It's like, okay, 10,000 armor on kill. That sounds like a lot. It's not. My tank build has 314,000 armor when I run full defensive mode. And that's before any bonuses from, say, the demolitionist armor pack or pulling out the minigun. 10,000 armor is nothing. That's not even one hit from enemies at World Tier 5. Make that, 30,000 armor on kill, or 25% armor on kill, and it might be worth something. 30% health, people don't run a lot of health in their armor sets. They tend to focus on armor, since it can be healed, and health can't be. It has to regenerate slowly. 30% explosive resistance. Knowing what I know about the raid and Operation Dark Hours, yeah, that could be helpful, because Jesus Christ, if they don't have air bursting grenades all over the place, and seeker mines, and all kinds of other fun stuff.
Agent in need of backup.
Blowback. Launch a grenade at the target that depleted your armor. Can occur once every 3 seconds. Well, first off, if you're in a high-stress situation and they depleted your armor, you're about to die. You know what I'd rather have than blowback? If someone's depleted my armor? Unbreakable. So that I get 70% of it back immediately, and might live long enough to get back into cover, or find new cover if I've been flanked. This one, explosion caused by the player stacks the bombardier buff. Each stack of the buff grants party raid members 10% explosive damage to the player with 10% bonus armor for 10 seconds. 10 seconds isn't long, and 10% bonus armor ain't a lot. They've upped the difficulty of these encounters now at World Tier 5. So even 300,000 armor doesn't go as far as it used to. It's become much more ruthless. Aces and Eights is not a bad set to use, but it's a sniper set. So I'll give you an example here. You got, of course, 10% marksman rifle damage, which, 20% accuracy, 20% weapon handling. So that helps. I mean, it's a marksman's rifle. You want to be as accurate as possible. Flip a card by shooting an enemy with your marksman rifle. Headshots flip 2 hands. Full House increases magazine size by 100% for 10 seconds. 4 of a kind grants 30% bonus to armor for 10 seconds. Aces and Eights grants the next 5 bullets 100% bonus damage. And then this is the part that's bugged. Sheriff's Favor. Effects of Dead Man's Hand are applied to all party raid members. Well, we know this doesn't work. In the raid, it doesn't transfer to raid. So if you're in subgroup 2, you won't get the buffs if the guy with aces and eights is in subgroup 1. And even if you're in the same party, this after a certain number of procs, you stop getting Sheriff's Favor. I've gotten the bonuses like twice during an encounter, and then I didn't get them for the rest of the encounter until the guy relogged or changed his gear. So yeah, that's bugged. And even the sets like Hardwired or True Patriot aren't exactly anything to sneeze about. It's okay. Okay, 20% handling, 25% burn damage, and 25% bleed damage. Most people don't stack burn and bleed because you typically don't cause those readily unless you're either a survivalist with incendiary grenades or a demolitionist who uses frag grenades, to which I would respond, why? I don't even use frag grenades on my demolitionist. I just use concussion grenades and use the bonus explosive damage. Emergency requisition. Combat resources, armor kits, ammo, grenades within 40 meters of you are automatically collected. This occurs every 30 seconds. That is a dumb 5-piece. Killing an enemy grants some special ammo, incendiary explosive shock to one of your weapons. They did modify this. It used to be one of your other weapons. So if you kill someone with your primary one of your primaries, the ammo will either go to your other primary or your sidearm, which is kind of useless because you're using your primary weapon. Like most people use their secondary slot, their second primary slot and their handgun slot as stat sticks. And I'll give you an example. I use this assault rifle. It's good. I like it. I use it with Chatterbox because of its holstered perk. Whenever you kill someone, you reload within a certain amount of time. You get like a 20% rate of fire increase. I'm using the double-barreled shotty because it's got stop, drop, and roll. My AR for my defensive build does not have stop, drop, and roll. So instead of that, I could just switch. I could switch to my specialist weapon, which is this P230, and get greased. I could put this on, get Zen, so rest and cover for 3 seconds and remove blind and disorient. Am I ever going to use that weapon? No. But it's giving me stats. That's all I care about. So that's that in a nutshell. I mean, the specializations are interesting, and aside from the minigun, the weapons are actually pretty viable. I mean, even the sharpshooter, they've done a lot of work improving the TAC 50, so it's actually viable to, wreck people. You can get 3 million damage headshots with that thing. So that's something to look out for. Of course, there's more activities here in the open world, as you can see. In the Division, once you've done all the encounters and side missions, unless you go pursue, high-value targets, there's not really a lot going on. Not so here in the Division 2. There's tons of activities still to do, and you've got projects we can see here that will encourage you to do them. Of course, donating gear. How do you get gear? Kill enemies. How do you kill enemies? You go do activities and get stuff, and hopefully turn it in for more stuff, and the cycle repeats. And then of course you've got the challenge missions, the Dark Zone missions, which I've never done, the daily shade requisition, which would normally give you a blueprint, but I've actually run out of the blueprints they offer. I've got a fairly complete collection of blueprints from folks.
Anything I can do for you?
Already got all her blueprints, but yeah, there's definitely some work to be done here in the Division 2. Overall, I mean, is it an improvement to the original game? By and large, yes. I mean, much more active in the end game, as you can see on the world map. It's not always winter all the time, which I thought was kind of dumb. I was expecting them to at least, you know, try and move it into like spring and have the snow melt. But they didn't. They just kept it and we're in perpetual winter. The Black Tusk and the invaded missions add a new level of difficulty, which is always good because the Black Tusk are actually pretty dangerous compared to some of the other factions. The hyenas have become predictable. True Sons are a little rougher because they've got military training. Outcasts are kind of so-so because they basically just hoard you with numbers. But Black Tusk is actually, with their warhounds and stuff like that, they're actually pretty dangerous. As you can see, the DZ normalization. It's like, yeah. I guess if you wanted to go there, you could. Personally, I have no interest. But it's a better game, but it needs a lot of work. And I mean, they managed to fix the division, so I think they can get it done. It's just a matter of being willing to listen to what people's gripes are and actually, fixing it. Putting the minigun out in the state it was in was frankly unconscionable. Because I'm sure they got told in the test server stuff that the DPS on the thing is anemic.
Nice to see you.
Plus it's woefully inaccurate. If it wasn't for the fact that the talents on the specialization are so good, I wouldn't run Gunner at all. I'd just go back to Demolitionist. Hell, I'd even run Marksman before I run Gunner if the talents weren't good. But I think that's enough ranting for me out of one day. Here's hoping they fix it fairly quickly before people just give up on it like they did the First Division. Anyway, that's it for now. I'm Mercy 99. I'll see you next time.